Hi everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. We are focusing on a mixture of flat and jumps this weekend. We've got another national for you, the Scottish Grand National, which is the first race we're going to be doing. We've got some key trials, Guineas trials at Newbury as well. So there's a bit for everyone, and it's largely pretty competitive. So between Charlie, Poste, Steve Jones and I, there's a few bets going up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast because it makes it easier for you to listen to it. And also watch it if you want to do so on YouTube. It's the best no-cost way of supporting all of our content across all of the sports that we cover. And check out the daily Matchbook horse racing markets as well. Largely the best price on Odds Checker, and they are daily markets that are going up. Of course, they go up at 10 a.m. on the Matchbook Zero page as well, but we'll come to that. But check out all those horse racing markets we've got for you. Ayr today. And the Scottish Grand National tomorrow is what we're going to start with. That is the 3:35. And it's largely very open, unsurprisingly. Charlie Poste. Willie Mullins is sending a few over. Who are you with and why? I think you're the biggest price of all of our selections.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real sort of exciting sort of byproduct of these last couple of weeks, isn't it, with the championship battle. And you kind of got the impression Willie Mullins is seriously buying into it, as we can see with the strength of the numbers he's sending over. Actually saw Dan the other day, and again he's pretty fired up for it as well, so it's going to be exciting. With the Scottish National, I ended up coming down with Mr. Vango for Sarah Bradstock, and I just felt this horse, it really improved going up to marathon distances at Exeter in February. Won by 60 lengths that day, obviously hit with a 12-pound rise, but then pitched into the National Hunt Chase. And I think we can all accept facing impossible tasks behind Corbett's Cross. But I thought still acquitted himself pretty well. He was kind of there a long way, and he kept galloping when headed. And again, enough so that he's up to 135, three-pound rise from there. But I still think 4 miles at Ayr, it's going to suit him really well. He'll go on the slow ground. He seems like just a really dour, tough, genuine individual. And I thought at 17.0, I thought, the Bradstocks, they don't need any introduction about their ability to train horses and take out big pots. But I just wondered if he had slightly more fashionable connections. I'd be surprised if he'd have been this big. I thought 17.0 was way too big, Tom.
Steve, you're looking at a Lucinda Russell horse?
Yes, I am. And it's interesting. I've just noticed that Inishaw, who won the Edinburgh National at Musselburgh last time, when they were running over hurdles in his second start was at Haydock in November 2022, and he was beaten a neck by Mr. Vango off level weights, and there's only £2 between them now. So that's a bit of a strange that they've met later in life. But Inishaw won so impressively up at Musselburgh. He's always been a horse that I thought would appreciate marathon distances. Lucinda Russell obviously does exceptionally well with horses that's stepping up into 4-mile chases, and that is exactly what happened to Inishaw. Bolted up at Musselburgh. Now, I'm not going to pretend that wasn't a fair bit weaker and less competitive than this race, but the way he went through the race, he was wearing a visor for the first time, which probably helped him travel a little bit better. I think the ground will be perfect. It should dry out to sort of good to soft. And everything looks in place for Inishaw, who's at the right end of the handicap, even though he's gone up a fair chunk I think he's gone up a stone for that win. He's still down the bottom of the weights. He's a horse that's completely unexposed over these sort of distances. I think he was meant to run in the Midlands National, but I think they took him out because of the ground. So he comes here fairly fresh horse as well, which isn't a bad thing.
And I'm going Irish, which I know hasn't always been a positive thing in recent years, unlike the Grand National itself. But I think there's a strong team coming over. I like who I thought was going to be the Mullins second string, to be honest. But looking at the prices, it feels like McDermott might be going off shorter than Spanish Harlem. Anyway, I wasn't that keen on Spanish Harlem when I saw his presence in there. But I do like McDermott, who seemed a much better horse, stepped up in distance last time. obviously is far higher now, but he's a horse with a lot of upside, far higher. The Irish mark obviously took a hike anyway, and then he's got his British conversion coming in here off 137. But he's just completely unexposed over the distance. He's got some form in and around some good horses. His jumping has let him down a touch in the past, but I'm hoping that this distance just brings about an even better performance. I don't think he'll be too far away from the early skirmish, which I quite like. And I mean, there shouldn't be any ground concerns at all. So I'm just excited to see him over a marathon distance. The other horse I want to back is, I guess, more of an insurance bet based on my confidence in him and a lot of people's confidence in him in the Kim Muir last time. I mean, it's a stretch to say the form's taken a boost. It has, but obviously Waka Clan was well beaten. But, you know, the winner came from way off it. He was obviously just far too good. And I still believe that Waka Clan is a really well-treated horse who'd been campaigned for that race. The Cheltenham form prior 2 starts ago, or now 3 starts ago, looks pretty good. He was given a spin over hurdles to seemingly get him right for the Kim Muir. I don't know whether the distance is definitely going to suit. It's just more like I think he's got a good few pounds in hand, and therefore I want him on side. And I don't know that the distance won't suit. He's 15.0, so I wanted him on side, and McDermott at 10.0 as well. Hopefully the first Irish train winner for God knows how long. Okay, that's us done with the Scottish National. McDermott, Waka Clan, Inishaw and Mr. Vango. Mr. Vango is the biggest price of those at 17.0. The Scotty Brand Handicap Chase next is the 115. I'm sitting it out. Steve isn't.
No, I think it's an interesting race. There's a lot of these like to make the running, and I think there's going to be a fair bit of pace on. Sans Brouet, who was an impressive winner at Aintree just last week, which I don't like horses having a quick turnaround. I know he's a horse that can probably, history tells you can take it. He's only been over here for 4 starts for Paul Nicholls, but that'll be 3 runs in just over a fortnight. So I wanted to take him on because he'll be taken on in the lead by the likes of Trapain Law and Pembroke and Uncle Phil. And Tommy's Oscar is a horse who's got a lot of class, and off top weight, I think this might just set up perfectly for Tommy's Oscar, and not all the races do. If you go back to just early last season, he was second to Banbridge, and he was running against Constitution Hill over hurdles in the fighting 5th. But he's won a couple of starts till then. I think the ground will definitely dry out. I think they've had all the rain they're going to get, and although it's soft, I think it'll dry out to good to soft, which would be perfect for Tommy's Oscar. And it's become pretty nicely handicapped. He won off the sort of mark on his return to action at Kelso. This is probably a more competitive race, but I think everything's in line for Tommy's Oscar to show his best form, and that makes him way overpriced.
Okay, and Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with plenty of Steve's sentiments. I thought this was a really trappy race. Maybe you played the sensible call and sat it out, but you know, I just went down through it and I thought Sans Brouet, I thought, again, he'd been very busy. Maybe he can cope with it, but I wouldn't want to be backing him at that price to prove that. Uncle Phil was up 11. I think Tom said in the messages, Tom Leach, that, you know, a lot of these Mullins horses are pretty short, I thought, compared to probably what they justified being. But of course, everyone's going to cotton on to the fact that he's trying to win this title. Pembroke is returning from a wind-up. And I ended up with just Persian Time, who I just think is probably the value at this. He's had a reasonable first go at chasing. He won well at Kempton last time, one of Nicky's first winners after the bad spell at Cheltenham. And he got in tight to the last, landed a bit flat-footed, and I thought did well to win in spite of that. Soul Icon, who he beats, I think runs today up at Ayr. And, you know, because of that, he only got a £3 rise, which I think is workable. And then chuck into the mix, he ran well over hurdles at this meeting before. So I thought at 7.0 Persian Time was the one that I'd play in the race, because personally, I'd gone through them and found question marks over a few of the others.
For what it's worth, my starting point was to take on Sonsbury, but then it just looked trappy. And I worried that all of a sudden you could be a furlong in going, oh shit, he's going to win. But that, yeah, my starting points be against him, but nothing left out. So yeah, Tommy's Oscar for Steve, no bet for me, and Persian time for Charlie. Okay, the Novices Champion Handicap Chase next. This is the 150. Again, a pretty competitive affair with 13 runners. Why don't I kick off because I sat the last one out. I'm taking a bit of a chance on Young Buster, who has Conor Brace on board. Obviously, Paddy Brennan retired, so he is no longer in the saddle. He was suspended for 10 days for his ride on Young Buster. There's not much in that, given that he should have finished second, but he wouldn't have won. But part of that was that he made a bad mistake, 3 out, and then Paddy dropped his hands, and the rest is history. But the point being that up until that point, I thought he was going pretty well. That was his toughest task to date. He had cheek pieces on for it. I'm not surprised they keep going with those. He was really progressive before that, and I thought that 17.0 he was just a little bit overlooked. He's not going to get it all completely his own way. Ballycoosh, you'd imagine, will be up there. A Buffalo Soldier tends to be ridden pretty handy. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with Sharjah, but yeah, I thought 17.0. Just based upon the performance last time, where there was a bit more to it, in particular the error 3 out when going okay, I thought he was just a little bit overlooked at the prices. So definitely win and place for Young Buster. Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. This is competitive, and because of that, I thought some of the ones at bigger prices were interesting compared to their rivals. I came down with McLean, 11.0 back in winning place personally. He's done well since he moved from Oliver Sherwood, who retired at the end of last season. A good second to Prairie Wolf on his second start over fences. That form's been frank. That horse has been ultra progressive for the Sue Smith team. Disappointed next time back at Doncaster, but I think supposedly he scoped 30 afterwards, so there were excuses for that. And then I thought looked really good, beating Son of the Somme at Newbury at the end of March. Stepped up to 2 miles 6.5 for the first time. He won readily, 3.5 length win, and he's copped an £8 rise for that. But I just thought that the trip was a bit of a revelation for him, and he seemed to really improve for it. I think going up an extra furlong and a half isn't going to do him any harm. He's only a 7-year-old. He should definitely still have progress within him. And I thought at 11.0 for Richard Bandy, who I think is a smaller trainer but a shrewd operator. He was very interesting, and then chuck into that because he's at that end of the handicap. He gets a nice lightweight at 10 stone 5.
Stephen.
Yeah, informed trainer for me, Harry Fry, with Deeper Blue towards the top of the market, and he's really hit form in recent weeks. And so Deeper Blue has been progressing really nice. He's been runner-up 3 times in the last 4 starts. And I don't think there's anything wrong with his attitude. I just think that he's been bumping into decent, well-handicapped horses. And I think this will be his opportunity now. He steps up in distance. He's got cheek pieces on the first time. But he ran really well over 2.7 last time at Newbury when he found Neon Moon on a going day. Which isn't always the case. I just think he's been a little bit unfortunate, but he's definitely a staying chaser to follow. And so Deeper Blue in what is a pretty competitive race, as you would expect for this kind of contest.
Deeper Blue at 8.5. Scottish Champion Hurdle next. Again, this looks a tough renewal. There's a good few from the county lining up again. I think a good few going to go up as well. Charlie, I'm with you, definitely with Loda Sul. I've got one other, but that form's strong. I thought he looked the winner until Absurd sprung past him. 4.0, very fair, actually. I thought it'd be shorter.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. As in, I hope he just gets what the big one that he deserves after the second in the Betfair and then the second in the county. I mean, I started writing my notes and I was like, oh, unlucky in the county. I mean, he wasn't unlucky. Everything went perfect. He was just unlucky to bump into a top class flat horse that's well handicapped and was slightly better than him on the day. The £3 rise I don't see as a problem. I thought this big flat galloping circuit would suit him really well, and fingers crossed he gets the win that he deserves.
And the one I wanted to add was the horse I put up in the county as well, Westport Cove, who clipped heels and was pulled up at 41.0 in the county. I mean, there's not much to that. Then ran, I thought, pretty well at Fairyhouse last time. That was in the listed handicap hurdle, where the winner just about made all. This is a patiently ridden horse, and I think that ideally suited him. He's gone up £4. That proved he was in good nick. He should get some pace to chase here. And to be honest, it was a toss-up between him and Bialystok, who I also put up in the county, who didn't run great. He's a tricky one. I think he's well treated, but I don't think he's the most straightforward. But if you just go back to the Cader Bourbon and even Tully Hill runs, I'm sure there's room off 139. He does need it to set up because he wears a hood and he's patiently ridden. I just wonder if he's a horse who might want further, but ultimately, I think at 13.0, I want Westport Cove on side. Again, it's a bit of a post-Cheltenham insurance bet, but I thought there was enough in the price. Steve?
Yeah, I quite like this horse at a big price. I'm struggling to see why Cracking Rhapsody is such a big price, 21.0, something like that. And I was really impressed with this horse at Kelso in the Moor Battle Hurdle, which was an equally competitive race, big field. It went through it really nicely and won it really quite impressively. I think he put the race to bed quite nicely. So having won his previous start as well, he's only had 3 starts in handicaps. He's progressing at a rapid rate of knots, this horse. I went for Inishaw in the Scottish National, a Scottish trained horse, and this is another one Ewan Williams trains in the Borders, and I think both the big prizes on the day are going to stay in Scotland. So Cracking Rhapsody for me.
Moving on to the Mayor's Handicap Hurdle. Not for me, thank you. Big price for Steve Jones.
Yeah, big price. This is a little bit more chancy, I think, because not totally proven at the distance, but it's certainly bred for the distance is Condessa. The only time that this horse was in a handicap was last time when pulled up, but was caught on the outside there, and she didn't really jump all that great at Newbury in a 2 mile 5, that big Mayor's hurdle final. But she's definitely a horse with huge amount of potential. Her second she's gone up to Sedgefield she's trained in Ireland by the Crawfords, and she's gone up to Sedgefield, presumably thinking that we'll get a win on the board. But she bumped into Springtime Promise, who went on to win a graded race at Sandown. You don't always bump into that kind of horse at Sedgefield. And like I say, I wouldn't worry too much about her last run at Newbury. And stepping up in distance, I think is going to be the key to Condessa. So a bit more of a chancy one, but at a big price, I'm expecting a big run off Condessa.
Not a bad price for you either, Charlie. 10.0.
No, mate. I mean, I must admit, I thought Condessa was interesting as well. So, but I've gone for one from the same team, but a different horse with the Crawfords. Ottizini. Sean Quinlan's on board. Has had a really decent season. Seems to often reserve best runs for over here. But I mean, ran behind Brighter Days Ahead earlier on in the year in Ireland, and then some solid runs over here. Musselburgh behind the Kuluki Kid, and then a win over Cardle, who I think is a reasonable yardstick at Musselburgh over 3 miles. Won impressively that day, and then back that up with a second behind Pinot Rouge at Doncaster, beginning of March in a listed race. I'm not sure that was probably the strongest race for the grade, but this horse, she displayed an admirable attitude, kept galloping well. And again, I just thought with the slow ground that's likely to be up there at Ayr, you're going to want a horse that's going to stay well. Track should suit her, and I can't see why she won't run a big race. And I think, as you kind of alluded to, it's another tight, trappy race. Horses stepping out of novice company, some of them for the first time. So I'd rather be kind of with something at a bigger price that I can back win and place than trying to be one of these shorter ones that don't offer that sort of luxury in the market.
That is Ayr done and dusted. So we move on to Newbury, and we kick off with another race I'm sitting out. I know it's pathetic, but a rest was a bit of a head scratcher at 2.32 for me in the John Porter. This could be an ideal opportunity for Kieran Schumacher to kick on with his new job, but the horse goes fresh, the track is good. But then I thought there was real sort of competition against him. I'll come to you first of all, Steve. I was close to a rest, but I don't know. I wasn't feeling brave enough at 2.32. How confident are you?
Yeah, fairly confident. It's not my sort of price, I have to say, but I just kept on coming back to him. Is the fact that he was so impressive on soft ground first time out last year in the Chester Vase, went off 4-1 favourite for the Derby. And probably the ground was a bit too quick, because the next time we saw him at Royal Ascot on quick ground again was in the King Edward, the 7th Stakes, and he was no good there again. But he bounced back at Newbury, where in the Geoffrey Freer, and then on his final start, he finished second to Continuous in the Ledger. So his form is, especially on soft ground, is really, really top notch. And the fact that he clearly isn't as good on fast ground suggests to me, what is the point of having him not ready at this time of year? They presumably want to really kick on, maybe have a break in the summer, and then come back for the races towards the end of the season when he's gonna, or more likely to, get his ground. So I wouldn't go mad on him just because of the price, but the bottom line is I think he'll win.
All right. I think he probably will. And Charlie?
Yeah, I think he probably is the best horse in the race for the future. I mean, I think there's any panic, but I just thought John and Thady Gosden's horses, plenty of them look like they're needing the run at the moment. And that was enough to put me off him at that sort of price. Like history tells you that this race, again, is difficult to win with a penalty when you're looking at the likes of Hamish and Al Karim. So I sided with another horse from the Ledger in a chess piece for Simon and Ed Crisford. He's been gelded during the winter. He's the son of Nathaniel. You'd think that there should be improvement in him. He can be ridden up with the pace, so I didn't think dropping back slightly in trip from his last two runs at Doncaster and Ascot was a negative. And again, when he just got beat by Middle Earth on his last start, he showed a good mindset. Was out in front, kept galloping away. Again, I think to be beaten by a talented rival. And, you know, like I say, for the fact that he's been gelded, remains in training, they must think that there is still more to come from him. And I just thought he was interesting again. I think he's about 15.0. So for the fact that I was wary of the arrest might need this, I thought he was one of the more interesting ones at a bigger price.
And Tom Leach says Arrest should win this, but just no bet. Morning, everyone. Morning, Racing Lee. Morning, Peter. Sorry, I've missed you out. I feel bad. A lot of people saying, well done, Charlie. Well done, Charlie. Great week for you. Good stuff. Selling horse for a good amount. Happy days. You back down to earth, Charlie?
Well, just about. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, it was pretty unbelievable, and we're struggling for Francesca and I to sink in a little bit, but the difficulty is it's sort of the first ones we've done in that sort of sector, and whether we'll ever be able to cap that, I don't know. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
Well, listen, you can't start better than that. Basically, Steve and I didn't think you'd show up today, so thanks for coming. We're delighted.
Steve was hoping that he thought he'd get a double fee if I didn't.
Exactly. Yeah, welcome along, everyone. Peter said getting Steve in is sure, by the way. So it hasn't won yet, but good luck. Right. Have we done that one? We have, haven't we? Mm. So that is a rest and chess piece. Now, Fred Darling. This is trappy, isn't it? Shall I kick off with Relief Rally, who's not going to stay? I'm going to look at Steve's reaction. Yeah, I'm going to hope Talent carries her through. She's just for. I think if you're looking for, you always talk about the Guineas as the last 2-year-old race of the season. Well, the Trials are the second last 2-year-old race of the season. She's the best 2-year-old. Non-stayers So, I mean, look, a mile I think will be beyond her reach, but I think she'll be fine over this, and I think she's the best of them. So at the prices, I'd rather back her than anything at 3.75, and the rest of the could be milers can go and run, because I think she's too good at that price not to back 3.75. Steve.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think this is a really, really good bet. Star Music. And if anyone's watching it live or on Friday, I think the price on this Star Music is going to collapse. I think it's about 8.0 at the moment, something like that. Richard Hughes has his team in unbelievable form, better than 1 in 3 strike rate over the last 2 months. And so you've got to think that Star Music is going to be fit and raring to go first time. And she was really impressive when stepped up to 7 furlongs on her 3rd start as a 2-year-old last year on the all-weather at Kempton. She just blew them away. And although that wouldn't have been the strongest race, she stepped into the Group 3 Oh-So Sharp Stakes next time and was far from disgraced at all, going from the front on soft ground when Dance Sequence was probably too good with Skellet. But that was a really solid effort. And Dance Sequence, who might have been beaten the other day, but I didn't think she liked the ground at Newmarket. So I still have a positive opinion of that Group 3. And I think it lines up very well with Regal Jubilee's form, who won a listed race impressively on heavy ground. Relief Rally, like, I know you're tipping her, Tom, but I don't think she'll stay. Folgaria, you've got no idea what she's been doing in Italy. So I'd be worried about that. And I just cannot understand how Star Music is this sort of price. I'm all over her. She'll go from the front, she'll just pop out, and I do not think she'll catch them. They'll catch them with that fitness that you can almost guarantee coming from an informed yard. I just think she's an astonishingly good bet.
I don't disagree with the yard in foot. I got close to her. Charlie, I just watched the race back last time, thinking she's going to have to improve on that to win this. I know she was well put in her place by probably 2 good fillies, but what do you think?
Yeah, look, I agree with that, but I mean, you might tell me different because you might have seen her in the flesh. Just watching her races back, I thought she looked like she had the frame to improve from 2 to 3. I also think that as Steve has said, the trainer is in unbelievable form. We got one at Chelmsford with that edge recently, and yeah, I just like the fact that she can go from the front. She's ineffective on slow ground, and look, if there's one of these that is better than her, so be it. But I thought she was way too big when you put all those factors into the equation to justify her being, well, outsider of the field, bar one. I mean, she's 8.5 on my screen now, which is just way too big.
Okay, that is the Fred Darling. And subsequent to that, we move on to the Greenham. And we're going the other way here. So you two are looking towards the top of the betting now, and I'm looking at a bigger price. So I've probably got it all arse about face these 2 trials. Charlie.
Yeah, I don't think I've been with a favourite yet today, but yeah, Zoom for me. Unbeaten last year. Won a listed race on last start. Then the form at Newmarket before that got a boost earlier this week with Kikuli winning for the Charltons. Again, has shown effectiveness on slow ground. Rafe Beckett's also running okay. Yeah, I just thought potential to be very good, this one.
Steve?
Yeah, that's exactly the way I see it. I just think Zoom is the best horse with the most potential, with the best form, and with that ability on soft ground. So he's not my sort of price, but he looks bulletproof.
I really like Mr. Sketch as a horse. I'm probably guilty. It's probably because it was one of those. I was at Salisbury when he won, and I was like, "Wow, this is a smart prospect." And he did absolutely smashed them up there in a really good time. I'm just hoping the ground was a bit testing last time at the back end of last year in the Horace Hill, in the Mill Reef. The form's okay. 7 Questions has come out and run pretty well in Dubai since. We haven't seen a race since, have we? Oh, we did. No, of course, we saw a Ray in the Dewhurst, and he was pretty well beaten. But I think the ground was not ideal, given the performance he put in on good ground. So this ground is going to be better. The step up in trips should be absolutely fine for him. And at 11.0, where you've got 11 runners, I thought I could definitely see him in the frame. Like, I think that Salisbury run had him down as a pretty smart performer. And actually, he ran okay. He made up a bit of ground early on in the race on debut at Newbury, and I thought that was a decent start to his career as well. So I thought he was a bit overlooked at 11.0 win and place. Spring Cup's the last race we're going to be doing. We've got some decent prices going on here, though they're all much of a muchness. The biggest price at the moment is Steve's Thunderball at 12.0, Steve.
Yeah, I'm surprised Charlie didn't go the Thunderball, having won the lottery earlier in the week. But Thunderball, this race quite often goes to a horse who ran in the Lincoln, but wasn't among those towards the front. And Thunderball, I thought, ran really well in the Lincoln. Was only 7th, but weakened quite rapidly in the closing stages after getting a bump. But he was the only one to race prominently who made any impression at all. All the others that raced prominently dropped right out the back of the telly. Like the winner, Mr. Professor, was just in midfield, and Latam and Navaggio, who were both in there, came from right off the pace. And I thought that was a much better performance than the bare form from Thunderball. Last season, he won second time out at Newbury in what was quite a hot little race. And he beat Equatorial that day, who went on to win his next couple of starts, including a decent handicap at Chester. And Thunderball's also got form in these big field handicaps. He was only beaten 3 lengths when badly drawn in the Cambridgeshire. And previous to that, he was 4th in the Britannia. So he does show good form in these big field handicaps. He's got no problem with soft ground. And he comes having run much better than it appears at Doncaster. So I thought he had a really nice chance, Thunderball.
All right. I'll jump in with 2 horses that were second and third at Donny last time. Obviously, Mr. Professor won it, and they all came from off it. There's a shed load of pace on. I thought it was predominantly towards the lower end, which may just suit Navaggio a little bit better. But I thought Latam was another one worth having on side. Incidentally, it's coincidence that we're both on first starts for the new yard last time in the Lincoln. And they both ran well. I mean, they both had slight excuses in that they didn't get perfect runs. But there again, that's their run style. So I wouldn't go overboard on that. But when there's pace on at this track, I think coming from off it suits a little bit better than trying to dictate. And there's just so much pace on. So both of those 11.0. I mean, they're banged towards the top of the betting, but they're double figures. I think it's a great race to get stuck into something from off the pace that's double figures. Navaggio and Latam both tick that box really well at 11.0. Either side, they happen to be drawn either side. Charlie.
Yeah, again, I can see the argument for all your cases. Thunderball, Steve, I was quite keen on, I must admit, but I was worried about the positive ride and whether they might get sucked into going too quick if conditions are testing. But I can definitely see that, as I can see the other 2 that ran so well in the Lincoln. I came down with noble order from myself for Holly Doyle. Second start for Archie Watson. This one was picked up from Godolphin for 16,000 quid last autumn and has, I mean, some real quality form. I mean, on debut, he finished second to Claymore, split Claymore and My Prospero. Then had his starts for the Appleby team and was then obviously fragile. There was lots of sort of time off, which seemed to be a major part of his profile. Archie picked him up. He'd been off the track for, I think, nearly 18 months, but won impressively at Newcastle, and was just sort of nudged out to do so. And he's got a £6 rise from 84 to 90, but he's shown form on slow ground on the turf on his first start. And I just can't believe that if they can keep him physically in the right place, that there isn't more scope with him. And, this is an excellent yard with these sort of types. So I thought Noble Order, I mean, again, I think he's out to sort of 13.0 now. Win and place was really interesting because he's obviously got plenty of quality for all that he is fragile.
Okay. Latam Navajo, Thunderball, Noble Order. Any other bets? Charlie?
Yeah, just one today at 3:30. Gwitherneck, winning point-to-pointer. Been very, very disappointing for the Honeyball team, but showed a bit more on handicap debut off a terribly low mark at Wincanton, finishing 4th. Sent straight over fences. Good jumper in an ordinary race today. Unless he is just completely no good, which I suppose is a possibility, I can't believe off this mark he isn't going to find something through the spring. And yeah, I thought at 4.33 he was interested at Fontwell in a very weak race.
I want to mention a horse who, right, he's not running in a handicap, so I'm not tipping him up, but I'm going to urge people to put Dartmoor Pirate in your tracker. The reason I mention him is because he is entered up in another novice, and I'm hoping he doesn't run at Kempton. I think it's on Monday, and that they run the horse in a handicap over a more suitable distance than Foss last time. Just he ran a really good race, by far the best from off the pace in a slowly run EBF final. His mark went up £2 as a result, and then they changed the tactics and went forward at Foss last time when he was taken on. Go back to slightly more patient tactics, up in distance. He's definitely well treated off a mark of 123. They're obviously looking to run him again, but they're entering. I mean, 2 mile 5 at Kempton might suit on Monday. I just feel he wants more the hurly-burly of a handicap. They might ride impatiently back over 2 mile 5, but it's a novice and they're obviously trying to win one. So the fact that it's over 2.5, have a look at what price he is. If he's sort of third in, he might be interesting. But the main thing is if he runs in a handicap, he's definitely well treated. So I'm sort of following his progress or where he runs pretty closely. That's a horse called Dartmoor Pirate. Matchbook Zero Long Shot. Matchbook Zero goes live at 10 a.m. each day. Well worth having a win bet. You can only have a win bet because you're going to get enhanced odds likely because of the nature of the exchange and added to the fact that there's zero margin and zero commission with Matchbook Zero. So those exchange odds are only further enhanced. I'll side with Wacker Clan in the Scottish National at 15.0. Steve?
Cracking Rhapsody, 225 there, Scottish champion hurdle.
Charlie? Oh, come back, Charlie. Do it again. Sorry.
Oh, no, that is Dan has done me there because I unmuted myself and then he muted me back. That is unbelievable. I want Dan to take responsibility for that.
He's the background tinkerer.
Yeah. Noble Order in the Spring Cup.
Peter's Punt says Broken Halo in the SGN. I presume that's the Scottish Grand National. Unless it's the Sydney Great. No. Best bets. Latam for me at 11.0 in the Spring Cup. Steve?
Star Music at Newbury.
What are you going to do when Relief Rally just hangs on?
Hangs on to what?
Won't train on.
Won't stay. Might train on, but it's a sprinter.
Won't train on. That's what I said about Morge. Won't train on. Won't stay. Mind you. Relief Rally's not going to win a Guineas. Charlie, your best bet.
Zoom in the Greenham.
We're going to zoom off. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.